minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Of course, my name is Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, voice of the Belladonna Division, and co-host of Women's Wrestling Talk. Welcome to the SmackDown and AEW Rampage Aftershow, which takes place every Friday night. Now, usually I would be here with my tag team partner, Dreon Santana, our editor-in-chief, but she will be running a little bit late tonight, so I'm going to hold it down until she is able to join us this evening. So, of course, AEW Rampage came on early today at 5:30 Central, maybe 6:30, depending on where you're at. And, of course, if you have anything to say about what happened on each of these shows, feel free to go crazy in the comments like you guys always do, and talk about everything that you liked or enjoyed as I talk about what went on AEW Rampage and SmackDown. Of course, SmackDown isn't necessarily leading up all the way to a pay-per-view in terms of building up a pay-per-view, even though Hell in a Cell is coming up. But Rampage AEW has a lot of stuff going on, considering this weekend, this Sunday in Las Vegas, it's Double or Nothing with a stacked card that was already stacked on Wednesday, but it seems like it got more and more stacked tonight. And I cannot wait to get into it a little bit later on, where we give our predictions into what will happen on Double or Nothing this Sunday on pay-per-view. So, of course, we're going to start with Rampage, and yeah, it's just crazy. Thank you, JD, for joining us. Hey, thank you for joining us consistently. So, of course, on AEW Rampage, we had it started with a really killer match between Matt Sydal and Bryan Danielson, with special guest commentator William Regal, of course, giving the action and talking about his Blackpool Combat Club member Bryan Danielson. This match was absolutely stellar. It was so good because of course you have Matt Sydal, whose greatest strength is when he flies in the ring, right? He is a high flyer and he is a great technical wrestler, but he is not as technically sound as Bryan Danielson. And it seemed like Bryan Danielson was really out to prove that he was that guy headed into Double or Nothing, because child, everything that he had going on, all of his submissions and all of his transitions in and out of various moves that Matt Sydal was pulling on him and everything was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed that match so much. It was so good, and it was just like, I recommend, if you haven't watched it, if you were not able to watch it, this Rampage was live. If you were not able to watch it, I suggest you please go back and look at it, because it is a feast for the eyes between these two. Like, it was one time where Matt Sydal tried to hit Bryan Danielson with a sunset flip, but then Bryan Danielson reversed it. Like, and then there was another point where Matt Sydal tried to hit Bryan Danielson with a meteor, but here again, Bryan Danielson reversed it and tried to work on those knees a whole lot and stomp on them. And Bryan Danielson wound up winning. And oh my God, like, and to take nothing away from Matt Sydal, but Bryan Danielson did that. He is out here to prove that even though he did just have a birthday, and happy birthday to him, he is 40 years old. He is still out here wrestling like he is in his 20s, y'all. He is good. Bryan Danielson is still good and still out here doing it. And yes, JD Danielson's leg is okay because he was utilizing it really well. Joseph, thank you for joining us. I heard Brian can be a bit of a jokester. I think he was trying to entertain the crowd, aka stalling because it looked to be stuck. Yeah, that may be true, but in this match, it wasn't anything but stuck. Like I said, this was live, and he was popping off tonight in his match. Like I said, he won his match against Matt Sydal. It was really good. So please go back and watch it. It was live, so it was great. Also on the card for AEW Rampage, we had the Young Bucks going up against a jobber tag team in the form of Taylor Rust and John Cruz. But the funny part about the Young Bucks is the fact that they have a match coming up at Double or Nothing against the legendary My Brothers, the Hardy Boys, multi-time tag team champions, the Hardy Boys. And they came out in Hardy Boys cosplay. And not only did they come out in cosplay, and then their cameraman also came out dressed up as Lita with her signature thong showing up out of the pants and everything. They brought out Gangrel from the Brood, and he came out and spit out blood or whatever liquid that was a blood equivalent, and they came out and did their entrance and everything. And it's so funny because when you look at the Young Bucks, you can't help but see, the Hardy Boys' influence on them as a tag team. And even in the way that they look and present themselves, it's like you can't help but to see it. So to see them sort of be disrespectful while also being respectful at the same time to them was just really funny. But this match was pretty good. But it was kind of by the numbers here, the way that you would expect, a match between jobbers to go. And the Young Bucks wound up winning. But then after they won and Gangrel came to celebrate with them, the Young Bucks pretty much like pretty much attacked Gangrel out of nowhere. And the Hardy Boys were watching and they didn't like that. So they came from backstage to help Gangrel and pretty much tried to beat up the Young Bucks, but the Young Bucks escaped and they beat up on their cameraman instead and hit him with a twist of fate and a swanton bomb. And basically, to send a message to say that they are ready to face the Young Bucks this Sunday. And I don't know about you, but one thing I believe in is loyalty, brand loyalty, and family loyalty. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm calling the Hardys to win it all because those are my brothers. So I'm calling them to win it all. The Hardys are gonna win it, and it's gonna be cool. Yeah, JD. Yeah, like that's what happened. Yeah, poor Gangrel, right? And but afterward, Gangrel and the real Hardy Boys actually had a moment where they were celebrating with each other and everything. It was kind of like a blast from the past, but it was really cool. So something else that happened tonight on Rampage was the reveal of the new TNT title with Scorpio Sky and of course American Top Team. They were out there, to talk about what's going to be next in terms of the TNT title, and they debuted this beautiful new TNT championship that embodies the spirit of Scorpio Sky, who is from Los Angeles. And of course, it has the beautiful colors of the 16-time NBA champions, the Los Angeles Lakers. And I am a Lakers fan. So when I saw that belt was purple and gold, I loved it. Plus, not to mention, my high school here in Birmingham, Alabama, Fairfield High Preparatory School, class of 2011. Our colors are purple and gold, and I loved it. I was a sucker for that title, so I really wanted low key. I really want that title. Tell me what you thought about the new title in the comments if you saw that. But I, for one, really loved it. It was so cute. They revealed that title and basically they were talking smack, but then as they were talking smack, the screen came on, the Titantrons came on, and Sammy Guevara, Frankie Kazarian, and Ty Conti were at the top team headquarters, and they broke in and proceeded to push security out of the way and ransack their offices and their headquarters and even break their case with all of their titles in it, and they even stole one of their UFC titles. I believe it was Paige Van Zant's UFC title. If not, then correct me in the comments because of course I like if I'm wrong, please let me know. But and they also stole the BMF title, which to me, I thought it stood for Black Mafia Family, but I'm not sure. Um it may have stood for something else, but either way, they took those titles and basically just ran away, to much to the chagrin of American Top Team as they watched. So, in the midst of all of that, Scorpio Sky issued a challenge, an intergender trios match at Double or Nothing with American Top Team and Paige Van Zant versus Sammy Guevara, Frankie Kazarian, and Ty Conti. So, on top of adding more, to this already stacked like pay-per-view, they added another trios match to it. So let me know in the comments what you think or how it's gonna go. Okay, we got a lot of comments going on. Okay, Joseph says layout of the card on Sunday will be interesting, especially if the NBA or NHL or both have a game 7. Game 7 for both leagues will be at the same time as the pay-per-view. Ooh, Joseph. Yeah, that's a lot going on. That is a lot going on. There's a lot of sports stuff going on. It's crazy. Um NBA, NHL, all of that. Like I don't know. But at least you have the choice of what you want to watch. He also says it still amazes me that Dan Lambert is in professional wrestling. At one point, American Top Team was considered to be one of the best. As an MMA fan, it's now a joke since ATT has been in AEW. Now, I don't know a lot about ATT in the MMA. I would have to go back and search that and research that. But I mean, if that's how you feel, then that's fine. JD says Paige didn't win a title. BMF stands for baddest MFer title. Oh, okay, they made that up. Okay, well, whatever. Um, okay. Hence the 13 matches. I think a couple will be fillers. Hey, you never know. But yeah, that's basically what happened with those guys. And of course, they were really angry about that. But either way, that TNT title, just look at it again. Just the purple and gold. That's my favorite. I love that title. Now, next, of course, on the card, we had Max Caster from the Acclaimed. But he was also accompanied by, of course, the Gun Boys and his partner versus Dante Martin of Top Flight. Now, this is sort of like a continuation of a rivalry that they had going on AEW Dark Elevation. So they were sort of hyping it up a little bit by showing, of course, them fighting on Dark Elevation a couple months, like a month back or whatever. So this match was pretty good. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I had to step out, so I didn't really see a lot of what happened in that match, but it was still pretty good. And I always enjoy watching Dante Martin. There was a point where Dante Martin actually balanced himself on the top rope before he did a flip onto Max and the rest of the Gun Bros. Like, what is does Dante Martin have wings? Like, does he have imaginary wings that only he can see and we can't see from the outside because we have basic human eyes? Dante, what? Like, I would give anything to see like a high flying match between Dante and like Ricochet. Like, I'm not sure if that'll, ever happen because of life and all of its circumstances. But oh my god, a match between Dante Martin and freaking Ricochet would slap. It would absolutely slap. But oh my god, like it was like from what I did see, from what I was able to see, it was a good match. So yeah, I mean, what more can you ask for with that? Also, of course, they kept talking more about the card for Double or Nothing. They talked a whole lot about the championship match, which is going to take place between Hangman Adam Page and CM Punk, whose memory that I shared today, because of course this week AEW celebrated their 3-year anniversary. And I talked about how my favorite moment, well, one of my favorite AEW moments was CM Punk making his return to wrestling after 7 years away. And that moment will always be etched in my mind simply because of the fact that it was just such a beautiful moment to watch this person, sort of like a prodigal son of sorts of wrestling, make his beautiful, epic return in his hometown, and to watch everyone get emotional about it, showing that one guy crying, and all of the fans in Chicago just cheering him on and helping him to just be happy and welcoming him back. Like, that is just one of my favorite moments. My second favorite moment from AEW in the last 3 years was watching the rise of Jade Cargill and watching her, even though there were a couple bumps in the road, it's just watching Jade Cargill as a black woman rise in AEW during a time which was a little bit tumultuous at that time for how they were perceived, how they were showing, their black female talent or just their black talent, period. And she rose to become the first ever TBS champion, and she won that title in front of her daughter. And that was just a beautiful, sweet moment. So, of course, in the midst of that, they were beefing up that match. They were also talking about the finals of the Owen Hart men's tournament, which is now at this point between Adam Cole and Samoa Joe. And let me just say, I believe it's funny that Adam Cole and Samoa Joe it's almost like AEW is taking advantage of this long-term booking that started in NXT with them fighting and brawling with each other, but then somehow it never got to a match per se. And now they're in the finals of this Owen Hart tournament, and now they're about to fight. And it's just really funny how that turned out. And then just the history that they have even before NXT, of course, in Ring of Honor and in the Indie, and also in the Indies as well. So it's really great, and I can't wait to see how that finals is going to go. And then, of course, we're going to talk more about the women's tournament and how that's going to turn out. And of course, Jade Cargill is going to be fighting Anna Jay for the TBS championship at Double or Nothing. And Thunder Rosa will be fighting Serena Deeb for the women's world title at Double or Nothing as well. And then there's a lot of trios matches, tag team matches, just everything that you could possibly want in in an AEW card. It's there for you. And it's crazy, but it's going to be enjoyable. So let's just go back to the comments for a minute. JD says he likes the TNT belt. Yep, me too. JD also says that Jade is a freaking star. Okay. And then TK, our CEO and fearless leader, says, great job. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Trying to hold down the fort. And Joseph says the women's side was a complete mess. I think that fans are just waiting for Dr. Britt Baker to be crowned. She's been the teacher's pet since day one. I want Ruby to win. I think it's been a mistake her going to AEW. Now, I'm going to address that a little bit more as we go a little bit further into the card. And the main event, after they got through beefing up their Double or Nothing card, the main event was the semifinal to qualify for the finals match in the women's tournament between Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander. And this match impressed me on the part of Chris Statlander, who is a friend of Women's Wrestling Talk. We've had her on before. And also Ruby, we've had her on before as well. So she's also a friend of Women's Wrestling Talk as well. It could have gone either way with these ladies, but I saw a lot of offense on the part of Chris Statlander that I hadn't really seen before. Since she's had an attitude change, and since she's not really the cute alien, bubbly alien anymore, she has been taking advantage of her power and her size in such a fierce way that I just loved. And even during this match, it was almost like Ruby had such a hard time, trying to solve her. Like, it was just crazy because, of course, Ruby earlier was talking about how, if she has to go through a friend, and that's just what she has to do to qualify for this tournament. But Chris Stanlander was not here to play with us today. She wasn't. Miss Ma'am was hitting Ruby with all kinds of power moves, all kinds of clotheslines, just throwing her and tossing her back and forth. For the life of me, I don't understand how Ruby won. And it was crazy to me because even after, and this is no shade to Ruby, but even after Ruby went ahead and took advantage and won the match, a lot of the audience members, and also shout out to Alicia, who is a new family member of Women's Wrestling Talk. She was there, and sitting next to Thunder Rosa's husband, no less. Like, shout out to her. A lot of the crowd members were kind of sad that Chris didn't win because Chris had a lot of momentum going into this match. Like, even in the promo, she was talking about how she had been in AEW for so long and still had nothing to show for it. She injured her knee. She had yet to win any type of tournament or any type of title. And when you really think about it, like, she has been there for such a long time, and she really, was looking to prove that she is a substantial wrestler and that she can deliver in this big moment. But even in this big moment, she still wound up failing. And even though the fan base online and stuff were pushing for Ruby Riott to have more of an opportunity since she has been on the AEW women's roster, you could tell that a lot of the audience members tonight were deflated because Chris Statlander didn't win. Tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me if you felt like Chris Statlander should have won the tournament, or if she, showed more prowess in the match than her opponent. And just let me know if you guys felt like, Ruby, was the right choice to win. But after the match, Ruby cut a promo after Dr. Britt Baker DMD came out, and she was about to cut a promo, but Ruby interrupted her and she was like, "Look, I'm sick of hearing your mouth. I've been listening to your mouth since I've been here. Just shut up." And she told her that you can tell that, it's hard for me to have beaten Chris Statlander because she's such a great opponent, but I've had it out for you since I've got here, and just know that I'm going to cash the receipt for you, and I'm going to kick your behind, Britt Baker. And Britt wasn't able to say anything. Like, she really was just standing there like, "Oh, okay, you think you're gonna beat me? All right." And also shout out to Britt because she actually had on a Captain Jack Sparrow t-shirt. I guess she's in support of Johnny Depp and that whole situation with Amber Heard. We're not gonna get into that here, but I just noticed that was a shirt that she had on. But either way, in the finals for the Owen Hart women's tournament, you got Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Ruby Soho. Now, it's kind of hard to tell who's going to win, but Joseph, of course, felt like, he wants Ruby to win. And that a lot of the fans are waiting for Dr. Britt to win. Either way. But he also has something else to say. He says, "I think this was up against the clock. I wonder if Dr. Britt was supposed to react, and all they had 13 matches to make Ruby win, react, and have Dr. Britt show up. I don't know. I really don't know. It's kind of hard to say. It's hard to tell that when you're not backstage and you don't know everything that's going on. Now, of course, later on in the show, hopefully I will be able to give our predictions as to who is going to come out victorious in the match, in all of the matches at Double or Nothing. But yeah, that's pretty much all, and that's pretty much the way that AEW Rampage ended. Now, of course, they had a show that was going to show, I believe, after a movie or after some more sports that they were showing to sort of talk about and wrap up everything that's going to happen on Rampage. But on Sunday, but that's basically all that happened on Rampage. So now we're going to move into the SmackDown side of things. So, of course, first I want to just say one thing. First of all, is to say congratulations to former SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair and Andrade El Idolo on their nuptials today. Charlotte Flair is married to Andrade. And this was just such a beautiful sight for me because I know they're a beautiful couple and they like to talk about how happy they are and everything. And I've sort of been waiting for them to get married because I wanted to see what Charlotte's dress was going to be like. But as you can see, she's pictured here with Andrade with her husband. And of course, the legendary Rey Mysterio and his wife. And these two people right here, I'm not exactly sure who they are, but I'm sure that they do mean a lot to the bride and groom. So I just wanted to start off by saying congratulations to Charlotte Flair and Andrade, and I hope that they have a happy and healthy relationship and marriage as they move forward. And we do low key miss you on SmackDown. Fours up, guys. Fours up. So SmackDown was pretty funny. It had a pretty low key emotional start as we thank you, JD. Thank you for joining us. And happy Memorial Weekend to you too. And Joseph said it was clear she was a pandemic bride who had to push back her wedding. Hey, a lot of people had to push back their wedding because of the pandemic, but I'm glad that a lot of people are getting to do that now as safely as they, possibly can at this point because, it's still running around, but, at least people are still, finding some sense of normalcy. So either way, that's where we are. So SmackDown started with the Usos coming out, of course, with their Down Since Day One ish song, which I absolutely adore. And they came out to basically brag about how they beat RK Bro to win all the gold. And funny enough, this reminded me of Sasha and Bailey, the golden duo, as they were holding all the gold, during the pandemic era when there was no audiences. This is basically what they reminded me of when they were talking all that stuff. But for a moment, as after they were bragging about them defeating RK Bro and then not being able to do it without the undisputed champion Roman Reigns, their cousin, they proceeded to slow down and talk to the audience in a real way. And they talked about how this week they celebrated their 12th anniversary of being in WWE. And this blew my mind because I had no clue that their anniversary was this week. I guess I missed it somehow. But oh my God, it's been 12 years since the Usos made their debut. And you could tell that it meant a lot to them to address all of us, the fans, who've watch them grow up from being those guys with the paint on their face who used to come out to their old theme song and do the haka, and then pay tribute to their Samoan roots. And then we watched them win so many tag team titles at a time, watch them go to WrestleMania at times, and even, evolve into their day one ish, personas, and even for where they are now. And they were talking about, how hard it's been with their ups and downs behind the scenes, and we all know what that is. And then they also talked about how we've supported them even as they were away from their families, because they have children and they have wives and so many different things. But they thanked us for watching them and supporting them for all these years. And it was almost like really emotional to the point to where, you almost felt like crying. Like I had my glasses on and I was about to take my glasses off because I was just like, oh my God, like we've really been watching them like this. But then right when I was feeling sad, like, oh my God, like feeling emotional about the fact that they've made it this far in their careers, they faked us out and they was like, we couldn't have done it without nobody. And they faked us out. And I was just like, y'all ain't got no business tap dancing on my emotions like that. It was so funny. And they was just like, we didn't need nobody. I just needed my twin brother. We just needed the bloodline. And that's how we run the tag division and all that. And I was just like, y'all gonna play with my emotions like that? Y'all gonna do that? Okay. So after that happened, they got interrupted rather by Shinsuke Nakamura, who's had beef with the Bloodline since WrestleMania, right? So he came out and said that his new tag team partner was gonna come out and basically challenge him for their tag team titles. And the Usos were like, "Bruh, who? You ain't got nobody. Your partner Rick Boogs is still out with an injury, and we do wish him the best of his injury. He's still out. So what do you mean, your partner?" And then out comes Riddle. And they come out and basically get into a brawl with the Usos, and then they beat them up, and then they basically have the upper hand in that brawl as the Usos basically sulked away. So they announced later in the night that the Usos are going to have to fight Riddle and Shinsuke, Team Shin Riddle or Riddle Shin or whatever you want to call it, on Raw this coming Monday. Like, do you guys think in the comments? Let me know in the chat if you guys think that Shinsuke and Riddle, can challenge for these tag titles at some point and possibly take it off them. Tell me, how you guys feel about that. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting start to SmackDown because normally they'll start, with Mr. Roman being, the king of us all and talking about everything and talking about how he's the king of us all and nobody's better than him and all that. But he left. He wasn't there and it started with the Usos. Then we got it cracking with our women's action. We were getting a rematch between the SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez. But of course, before their match got started, we saw a little bit of bitterness backstage coming from Miss Shotzi, who was backstage talking about her irritation at Raquel Gonzalez, sort of pushing her way to the front of the line to fight Ronda Rousey, the SmackDown Women's Champion. And she was talking, and she was basically trying to rally the rest of the women, the rest of the single stars, to, be angry at Raquel and basically gang up on her. She was saying, Aaliyah, like, you have the fastest victory in WWE history at 3.17 seconds. Xia Li, you are undefeated on SmackDown. Natty, you are a record holder and you're a champion. And if it wasn't, for Raquel, you would be a champion, 3 times over. And Shinsuke, and not Shinsuke, and Shayna, you're a monster. So why don't we fight them? But Xia Li stormed out. Aaliyah was acting like Shotzi had a bad attitude, but it looked like Natty and Shayna were really on Shotzi's side here backstage. But before Shotzi could make her move during the match between Ronda and Raquel, Aaliyah was petty enough to lock her in the female locker room with that key and swung that key around. Girl, it was funny. But basically, this led to more of a match. Oh, hold on, let me look at the comments. SmackDown was in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Those Usos are benefiting from WWE being the Roman Reigns show. Their reign started 312 days ago. Yep. Yeah, for a bit, you could tell they broke character. 12 years and 8 reigns later, they're living their best life. Right, they really are. Joseph also said, I could see Riddle and Knock winning to set up this match for both of sets of tag titles at Hell in a Cell, especially if we are going with the idea that Roman will face RK Bro back to back. I don't know about that. It's weird. And then considering Randy is gone with an injury, I don't know if that's real. And then he also said Ronda was screwed by the walkout. It was rumored she was supposed to defend versus Sasha at Hell in a Cell. I could see a 6-pack battle royal to decide who gets Ronda at the pay-per-view. Whew! But essentially, let me talk about the match first, and then I'll go off into that a little bit, Joseph. So, I believe the Ronda and Raquel match was supposed to be a singles match, but Natty and Shayna came out and interrupted the match, started a DQ, and that match turned into a tag team match. But I do know that I believe Ronda and Raquel wound up winning the match, but I wasn't able to see all of it due to other matters. But It's great that Ronda and Raquel do have that respect for one another, seeing as Raquel was able to push Ronda to her absolute limit in their first encounter for the SmackDown Women's title. So it's good that she has that much respect for her in fighting in that match. But to go back to your point, Joseph, about Ronda being screwed by the walkout, honestly, Ronda, in my opinion, Ronda Rousey wasn't necessarily screwed over by the walkout in the sense that she still is a champion and she still has a whole locker room to fight. And even if she was supposed to defend against Sasha at Hell in a Cell, which some of the rumors are saying because of course Sasha or Naomi were supposed to win that infamous six-pack challenge that didn't take place on that Raw on that night that Sasha and Naomi are rumored to have walked out. I I don't believe that Ronda was screwed in the least bit because she still has a good amount of women that she could very well fight if they decide to put her on the card for Hell in a Cell. Because even at Backlash, the Raw Women's Championship wasn't defended and the women's tag team titles weren't defended either. So I'm not sure. They haven't announced a match for the SmackDown Women's title at Hell in a Cell yet, but there is something else that I do want to point out in terms of the women's division in that, or something that I've noticed this week. Y'all remember last week on SmackDown when they were dragging out the story of Sasha and Naomi letting down the WWE universe, which they didn't. And then they announced that there was supposed to be a tournament for the women's tag team titles. This week, these tag team titles, y'all remember what they look like? Yeah, when they were on these women right here. We ride for both of them still on Women's Wrestling Talk. And this is what the women's titles look like, right? We have yet to get an announcement about what's happening with these titles now that Sasha and Naomi are no longer champions and they've been suspended indefinitely. We don't know what's going on. We don't. Nothing has been said or announced about the tournament. We have seen, like on Raw, they had multiple singles women's matches. And I'm not angry about that, of course, because any opportunity that the women get to be on television, I'm going to be here for. But on SmackDown, we only had one women's match, and that was a tag team match. And then we had the segment with the women backstage. Nothing this week has been announced for the women's tag team titles as of this point. Why is that? Why? You announced a tournament, and I'm not rushing y'all, but at the same time, if y'all are this serious and if y'all are acting like Sasha and Naomi let y'all down by walking out because they were disappointed in what was given to them, as single stars and not as tag team stars, why haven't you come up with something else, to solve the issue of y'all not having women's tag team champions? Because as if y'all are not as passionate as y'all say y'all are about it, then maybe y'all are just proving Sasha and Naomi's point. Maybe. But like I said, we have yet to hear anything about those tag titles. Okay. Sammy, one of our writers, just logged in. Sean Ross Stephanie said it's unfortunately going to be a 4-team tournament consisting of Zelina Carmella, Doudrop, Nikki, Natalya, and Shayna, and a mystery team. Now, I haven't seen that, but I'm not saying that's not true or that's not false, but I haven't heard that. But thank you for pointing that out. But my thing is, I read somewhere that Zelina Vega is injured, and that's why she hasn't been on television. Now, Carmella, she has been on television, but she is probably going to be in a feud against Dana Brooke because they've got all that going on. And Doudrop and Nikki and Natalya and Shayna are probably the only 2 tag teams that we have seen, and maybe a mystery team. Okay. Honestly, they should bring up Casey and Kaden. Right. Like, if you're going to bring up tag teams to try to do that, then Casey and Kaden, well, not Casey and Kaden, because that's not Casey Kenzar, that's not her name anymore. Katana Chance. If they're going to bring up Katana and Kaden, then they need to go ahead and do it, because it seems like in NXT, even though they are getting ready to challenge for the NXT women's tag titles that are currently held by Toxic Attraction, And if they're never going to win those titles, then bring them up and let them do something else. Please let them do that. But Jesus Christ, like do something. Joseph says, I think it's being delayed because Zelina is supposedly injured. Yeah, like I said. Um, or hear me out, have Toxic Attraction unify the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. I feel like that would defeat the purpose of them starting those NXT Tag Team Women's Tag Team titles on that brand alone. And I really feel like they need to keep those over there. They just need to keep NXT away from the stuff that's happening on the main roster and from that perspective. Um yeah, I don't, whatever that woman's name is, I don't care for her. Okay. LOL, yeah, her name is Katana Chance, or have Toxic losing and debut them on the main roster. I don't know. But I feel like retiring the NXT women's tag team titles isn't necessarily the best way to solve that issue because there's still a whole bunch of women in NXT who could challenge for those. But I want to move on and continue to talk about something else. But at the same time, I just wanted to point that out. Just the fact that they haven't announced anything as of yet for what's yet to happen for the NXT, well, not the NXT, but for the main roster women's tag team titles since, they have all that energy. I don't know, but I just wanted to point that out. So moving on SmackDown, they did show a little bit of what happened to Madcap Moss and how he got attacked by Happy Corbin, and how he got injured with the chair around his throat and him basically breaking the Andre the Giant Memorial trophy while injuring him. But next week they announced that Madcap Moss is going to return, and he did, put out a tweet saying that he's going to basically beat up Happy Corbin for injuring him and for disrespecting the legacy of Andre the Giant. And then what's so funny is from a trivia standpoint, not even from a trivia standpoint, but from a wrestling nerd standpoint, Happy Corbin did that the week of Andre the Giant's heavenly birthday. Like, how dare you? Like, that just makes him like one of the best heels for you to mess up Andre the Giant's memorial trophy on the winner this year on Andre's heavenly birthday, the week of his heavenly birthday. You know how savage you have to be to do something like that? Oh my God. Happy Corbin is unhinged and he needs to be dealt with. And I hope Moss gets him together because that was really rude. But moving on in the card, we also had another encounter with Adam Pearce, the sole official of WWE, and Max Dupree, aka LA Knight, depending on your preference, because I know a lot of people are still angry about the name changes or whatever. But Sweetheart came back there to try to, talk to schmooze Adam Pearce into getting more, models for his, maximum male model brand or whatever. But of course, Adam Pearce, wasn't trying to hear that last week because, of course, he signed his contract when Sonya Deville was still in power and he had to still figure out what's going on with the papers. But along with looking at the papers, he told Max Dupree that he is an official member of the SmackDown roster, which made Max Dupree really happy. So now he is going to go forth and try to win, get some, new male models for his agency. But he disrespected Adam Pearce and told him that he will not be one of the models. And I was just like, you didn't have to do him like that. You did not have to do Adam Pearce like that because even though you may feel like he's not fine enough for your agency, Adam Pearce is fine for somebody out there. There is some man or woman out there who would really enjoy Adam Pearce being a model and being like half naked, on a calendar or something. Somebody it would enjoy that. But you know what? He wants to diss him, so it's whatever. Y'all better leave Adam Pearce alone. He does too much. Um Sammy said they need to have me in the stable. LMAO. I don't know. We'll see. Um, so then we also, moving on in the card, we had a match between Jinder Mahal and Jinder Mahal and Shanky, who was grooving out to his theme song or whatever, versus Los Lotharios, who came out and kissed another lucky girl. And this match just seemed like it was just a pretty fun match to sort of pass the time a little bit because they showed them, acting, crazy and everything, and Gender being distracted. Well, not Gender being distracted, but Los Lotharios being distracted by trying to flirt with Miss Samantha, the ring announcer. And in my head, I'm just like, look, you flirting with her, but it would be real funny if freaking it would be real funny if freaking Ricochet came out there and kicked you in your head and told you, hey, you better leave her alone. But real secure men don't really have to do that. But I'm just saying it would have been funny if that happened. But they were so busy flirting with Samantha that they wound up, oh my God, like they were so busy flirting and with Samantha that basically Los Lotharios picked up a win on Gender and Shanky, and Gender was mad about it, and he basically got in Shanky's face, but Shanky was like, look, talk to the hand, don't do this to me, like, get out of my face. And he proceeded to continue to dance in front of Samantha, just to flirt with her and everything, and that was pretty much it for that. So I mean, I don't know what to really make of that. But then SmackDown got a little bit serious. Oh wait, Joseph said this was a unique and random match, and ending point with Samantha getting flirted. And all cities, Little Rock got this. Hey, I don't know. Like people just get crazy with that. But then SmackDown got a little bit more serious when Kevin Owens paid a visit for the Kevin Owens show, to talk to a member of the bloodline, right? That's how they were pushing it out there. But he said he went on to announce once he came out there after he proceeded to rant and rave about how Ezekiel is really Elias and how he's trying to point out liars and all of the above. Oh my God. It's just like Elmo and Rocco. This is really WWE's version of Elmo and Rocco. That's all it is. But after he was ranting and raving about that, he announced that the member of the bloodline that he's going to be talking to on the KO show was, of course, loudmouth Sami Zayn, the Stooge. And it was a love fest at first because, of course, KO and Sami Zayn are really the best of friends. They're Canadian brothers in arms in wrestling. And they, of course, are each other's soulmates and each other's enemies, each other's lovers, all of the stuff, right? We know the history of these guys. We can watch them fight forever. So they were hugging on each other, talking about how good each other's look and how they've evolved since they last saw each other. And they don't even remember what they fought about and why they broke up in the first place. But Sammy was talking about, how he's evolving, with the bloodline. But Kevin was telling him about his troubles with Ezekiel / Elias or whatever. And they both agreed that they really feel like Ezekiel and Elias are the same person, right? But Kevin Owens was trying to get Sammy to come to Raw with him so he can have help proving to everybody that Elias and Ezekiel are the same person. But Sammy, of course, was feeling really hesitant about it because of the fact that Sammy is in with the bloodline, right? And he's not wanting to give up his locker room leader position with the bloodline. But Kevin told him, look, they're just using you. You are delusional. They don't care about you. But Sammy wasn't trying to hear that. He got upset about it and he really he pushed KO out of the way and said, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure if you call them to come down here for me to speak to how they feel about me, they'll come. Kevin Owens called to the bloodline. Sammy called to the bloodline. They were nowhere to be found for that man. That's why you got to be careful who you say your friends are. You really got to be careful. Because everybody ain't your friend out here. Just because you say, oh, this my friend, you may be friends with them, but to them, you're probably just somebody that's just hanging around them. And they probably don't like you. And they probably talk about you behind your back when you're not looking or when you're away from them. That's why you got to have discernment out here in these streets. That's a little bit of extra advice from your girl Stephanie. But yeah, that's the lesson to learn from this segment. Sammy really thought that the bloodline was here for him, and they didn't come out there for him. So he got upset at KO. He pushed KO away from him, and he just walked away from him or whatever. And it was just like, dang. But then later on in the night, he went back there and talked to the Usos, and they had a little bit of an understanding, but the Usos really didn't want to hear it because they were just like, eh, yeah, we see it for you, but we really don't see it for you. It's a shame, really, because Sammy has just been going through his delusions of grandeur for so long now, and I'm wondering when he's going to wake up and realize, that all of, his power moves just aren't working. When is he going to realize that, y'all? I just don't know. I just don't know. But that's where we are with that. Then we had a tag team match between, I call them Red Imperium, between Ludwig Kaiser and, of course, the ring general Gunther versus the Intercontinental Champion Ricochet, who I really thought was going to be the fifth man. I really thought that Ricochet was going to be the third man for the New Day, but as it turns out, it was somebody else. But Ricochet was out there in the tag team match with Drew Gulak because he, of course, was taken up for him last week after Drew Gulak got bullied and smacked in the chest by Gunther and everything. So he was out there fighting on his behalf, and this was a tag team match, and it was pretty solid because, of course, you hadn't really seen Ludwig Kaiser fight since he was with Imperium on NXT. So it was nice to see them have that see Gunther and Ludwig sort of have that, little back and forth and tit for tat going on that they used to have going on in NXT. And it's so funny because I remember when Gunther was Walter and he was so much bigger, but now it just seems almost as if they're almost the same size, and it's crazy. But yeah, like this match was really good. They showed the best of what they had to offer here. It was really, really good. Um, but of course, since Gunther is a very powerful and imposing force, um, Ricochet and Drew Gulak just didn't have an answer for them. And Ludwig and Gunther wound up winning, but then after they won, they proceeded to beat up on Ricochet and Drew Gulak and basically just beat them up, and stomp them down and everything to sort of just intimidate them. So I'm wondering if this is going to lead to a possible challenge for the Intercontinental Championship, from Gunther to Ricochet, because as it stands now, Ricochet has not defended his title in a pretty long time. I believe the last time he defended his Intercontinental title, it was before WrestleMania. So tell me in the comments who you guys think. Do you guys think that Gunther will go on to challenge Ricochet for the Intercontinental title? And would you even want to see him with the title this quick? And do you think that an athlete like Gunther would actually bring more prestige to the IC title? No shade to Ricochet because he's definitely earned his opportunity to be a champion on the mid card because Lord knows he was kind of fair to middling for a minute. But oh my God, like Gunther as IC champion would be really cool. I think it would be really cool. Let's check the comments. Okay, Joseph says it would be interesting if that happens. People have stated that lately that the Intercontinental Championship hasn't been a priority, and it really hasn't. There's a lot of mid card titles that haven't been a priority. That the U.S. Championship, the Women's Tag Team Championship, it's their mid card has just been on the struggle bus. He also says, I know this ain't AEW, but Tony Khan is about to have competition on Sunday. Miami Heat wins 107-101 to force a game 7. Now, I can't talk about basketball. I can't talk about basketball. I can only talk about wrestling. Like, if you want to talk to me about basketball movies, then I can talk to you about that. But not about basketball or what's going on. Because after the Lakers got beat out and their season kind of just turned upside down and went belly up, I quit watching them. So I can't say that. I can't speak to that. But either way, that's what happened there. But of course, to end off SmackDown, after they had a segment celebrating the U.S. Olympic Special Olympics Games, and then they also had a moving tribute to the veterans, the many soldiers that have sacrificed their lives for Memorial Day. They had a moment, for them. And then they also proceeded to announce that Lacey Evans will be a special I'm not sure if she's a flag bearer or a special something for a NASCAR Cup Series race, which is taking place in Charlotte, I believe, this Sunday or Saturday. I can't remember, but they did announce that that's what she's going to be doing this weekend. So congratulations to her. And I just want to say that here at Women's Wrestling Talk, we do appreciate and love all of our veterans who have gone to sacrifice their lives, for this country, even at, the worst of times or even in the best of times. We appreciate that. I appreciate that. Um, Definitely happy Memorial Day, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and still, keep that in mind, and keep the families in your thoughts and in your good vibes and in your prayers that miss their family members who just so happen to be soldiers. I know it's got to be a tough time to really go through that, and then also go through everything that we've been through this week as a whole. Even in the past 2 weeks, it's just been really tough. With everything that's going on in the world, just hold on to love and hold on to joy, because times get really tough, but at least we all have each other, right? So please remember what this weekend is all about. It's not just a weekend for you to just have off. It's a weekend for you to really think about things, and think about, others, and, and their sacrifices for us to live the life that we do, even when it gets hard sometimes. So please think about that, and happy Memorial Day to everyone. I know that got a little bit somber, but I just had to say that. Also, so to basically end off the night, we had a 6-man tag team match between, of course, the basically, I don't want to call them the bruiserweights, but I'm going to call them the bruiserweights for the sake of, not really remembering the name that they fully call themselves, between Sheamus, Rich Holland, and Butch / Pete Dunne, in honor of Dreon, who isn't able to join me on tonight, versus Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and their third man that they chose, Drew McIntyre, with a sign that says, with a right next to a fan that says, "Get well, Big E," because we really do miss Big E out here in these streets. We love Big E so much. Oh my gosh, we miss him so much. But yeah, Drew was the guy that they chose to be their third man. So it's a Drew day. Yes, it is. So this match was really good, and it was interesting because Drew and Sheamus, of course, have had their back and forths in the past. And it was finally good to see the New Day have, oh my God, it was so great to see the New Day finally have, the upper hand on an even playing field. This match was really good. You saw a lot of, you know, the battering that, of course, Team UK is known for a lot of the time. And then you were able to see a lot of the craftiness, and a lot of the craftiness and technical ability that the New Day is known for. But then, of course, you have the power and the strength and the beefcakeness of Drew McIntyre in this match as well. And the New Day, the Drew Day, wound up winning the match. And it was a really great way to end it. And of course, as the New Day were celebrating with him, with Xavier playing the horn after he got the pin, with him playing Francesca, they were trying to root Drew on to twerk, but he wasn't twerking, but he just proceeded to dance with his shoulders and do a turnaround move or whatever. And it was cute because I just love the moments where Drew just takes the opportunity to entertain the crowd and just be silly, because it's easy to just be this, serious, tough heavyweight guy. But once you see him really come out of his show and just be that funny, silly guy, at the end of a show, it's really nice to see, him do all of that with Kofi and Xavier. And I'm glad that Xavier got that win, because he definitely deserves it. And maybe one day he'll challenge a certain member of the bloodline. Maybe he'll challenge Roman Reigns the way that he kind of put that out there on Twitter. Maybe. Do y'all want to see Xavier versus Roman for the Undisputed Championships? Do you? I think it would be cool, because Xavier is the only member of the New Day who hasn't won a main title like that. Even though his main dream was to be King of the Ring, I want to see him be champion. That's my birthday twin, and I want to see him winning everything that he does and everything that he manifests. I want Xavier to be WWE champion or Universal champion. Make it happen. I don't want to necessarily hold my breath for it, but I am going to manifest it. I'm going to manifest it for Xavier. Xavier deserves every good thing. He's been going back and forth. He's been hosting on G4. He's brought back Up, Up, Down, Down. If you ain't watching Up, Up, Down, Down, what are you guys doing? Please watch him on Up, Up, Down, Down. It is absolutely hilarious. But yeah, that's how SmackDown ended. Now, of course, they are, of course, getting ready to set up more for Hell in a Cell coming up because, of course, you got Cody versus Seth 3 in the Hell in a Cell. You've got Bianca Belair versus Asuka versus Becky Lynch. They're not going to be inside Hell in a Cell, but they're going to be fighting for the Raw Women's title. But all of that is coming up, 1 week from Sunday. But, of course, like I said, this Sunday is AEW's Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing. They got their buy-in, of course, which you can watch on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitter on their live platforms. But then they, of course, have their buy-in and all of that. But then on top of that, they also have their main card, and it is just stacked, y'all. It is stacked, 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 stacked. I can't even begin to tell you how stacked it is. But I'm just going to give my predictions as to what I think it's going to happen. So, in the match between Adam Page, I don't have any pictures, so please bear with me. I'm so sorry. In the match between Adam Page, Hangman Page versus CM Punk, I'm predicting that CM Punk is going to win simply because I just want him to be champion. And I just feel like it would be cool if he were champion. But then again, if he doesn't win, this would leave room for CM Punk and Adam Page to fight again at another date. And maybe it'll be an even bigger deal, but who knows? For Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb, I'm predicting that Thunder Rosa is going to retain, but Serena Deeb is going to give her a run for her money because they don't call Serena Deeb the professor for nothing. That woman will bring it to you. So I'm predicting that Thunder Rosa she's my girl and she is a friend of the pod. But I would of my pod and Women's Wrestling Talk. But I'm saying that Serena Deeb is really going to give it to her and I'm excited for it. I'm really excited. Then we have Jurassic Express, that's Jungle Boy, Perry, and Luchasaurus versus Limitless Swerve and Team Taz for the tag team championships. This is hard because I would love nothing more than to see Limitless Swerve win it because Keith Lee deserves another title and I just want to see that and I want Swerve to be dominant because I like them as a tag team. I like their cohesiveness and their chemistry, even in their promos. They're hilarious. And then of course you got Team Taz and they be doing stuff. You got Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. But I really, it's hard to say. I really want Limitless Swerve. I'm predicting Limitless Swerve is going to win. That's just my prediction for that, but we just got to see. Jade Cargill versus Anna Jay for the TBS Championship. And of course, in the comments, please let me know your predictions, how you think AEW Double or Nothing is going to go. Don't just let me sit here and ramble about my predictions. Let me know what you think. Jade Cargill versus Anna Jay for the TBS Championship. Jade Cargill is going to win because she's fought Anna Jay before. But if you've been watching Women's Wrestling Talk in our interview that we had, with Anna Jay, she's going to go into her match a little bit different than she did the first time. Watch that interview. And even though I feel like Anna Jay is going to give her a run for her money, ultimately the baddie Jade Cargill is going to win because she's money. She's green like money. She's a baddie. She's going to do it. Then, of course, we have the finals of the Owen Hart women's tournament between Dr. Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. And I'm predicting that Britt Baker is going to win. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is going to win. Even though Ruby Soho could stand to win this match because she just could. Then, of course, in the men's tournament, we have Adam Cole versus Samoa Joe. I don't have a prediction for this match simply because I just want to watch them fight and see how it goes. I just want to watch them fight and see how it goes because Lord have mercy, help. Then we have MJF versus Wardlow, aka Ward Daddy. Shout out to Low from Wrestling Wind Down, who I had on the Hardy Wrestling podcast. Wardlow is gonna win that match. Wardlow's going to win. Shenanigans are going to take place, but Wardlow's going to win. I'm here for War Daddy. Then we have the Jericho Appreciation Society versus Blackpool Combat Club, Santana Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. I'm predicting Blackpool Combat Club and the Crew are going to win that match because Jericho has just been talking out the side of his neck and setting people on fire for way too long, and he needs to pay. He needs to pay. And then of course we have Hardys, the Hardys, my brothers from another mother, versus the Young Bucks. The Hardys are going to win because family loyalty, like I said earlier. Family loyalty. Then we have the House of Black in a trios match, the House of Black versus Death Triangle. I'm predicting the House of Black is going to win. Then, of course, we do have another trios match that I did mention earlier between American Top Team with Paige Van Zant versus Sammy Guevara, Frankie Kazarian, and Ty Conti. I'm predicting that Sammy and the Crew are going to win that match, but Scorpio Sky and American Top Team aren't going to take it lightly at all. So that's how that's going to go. And then, of course, we also have the buy-in with Hookhausen versus Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling. I feel like Hookhausen is going to win simply because of the fact that Hookhausen have been working together for even though they've been they've been sort of struggling to understand each other, they do understand each other, and all of that is going to come together and coalesce in such a good way, and it's going to be awesome. And Team Hookhausen is going to come out with the win. So that's pretty much all I believe for AEW's card as it stands now. Like I said, it's really, really stacked and it's really good. But please know that you watch AEW's Double or Nothing on Bleacher Report, and other places. Of course, if you watch it elsewhere, like on Fight TV internationally, you can watch it there as well. But it seems like a really good card, and I'm really excited about it. So it's going to be good. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me for Women's Wrestling Talks AEW and SmackDown after show tonight. I'm sorry that Drian wasn't able to come on, but hopefully, next time we'll reunite and be the Sugar Spice, Everything Nice, and Chemical X, basically the Powerpuff Girls that we always are on Friday nights. Please follow her everywhere. Please follow Drian Santana at Drian, that's at DRIUNE, or Google her name and you'll find her everywhere. Please follow her and see everything she's got going on. She is such an amazing addition to the wrestling community. She is everything and a bag of chips. That is my girl. I love her. Please follow her and see everything she has going on with Women's Wrestling Talk and even outside of that. And also know that you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph, STEPH, Hardy, like the Hardy Boys, HARDY. And know that you can follow my podcast, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy WrestlePod. I've got a lot of big things going on. I've got a new episode coming out this weekend, and I got a couple of announcements. I'm bringing my fan table to Alabama Comic Con and to Black Wrestle Fest being held by Pretty Heels in Brooklyn, New York on Juneteenth weekend, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. I'm pumped. So, and if you haven't already, please check out everything that Women's Wrestling Talk has going on. Please follow us, watch us, subscribe to us at Women's Wrestling Talk on Instagram and Twitter at WW Talk Pod. If you are not subscribed to us, you can't see everything we've got going on. Visit our website at www.talkpod.com. Check out our articles, check out our opinion posts, check out our top fives, check out our interviews, check out our merchandise, check out everything that we've got going on. And also check out our articles that we have going on, because this month is, of course, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. There are so many contributions. There are so many people who have contributed to the history of these people. all throughout wrestling history, from the past to the present and even into the future. So please check out all of our amazing articles that we have, highlighting the history of these women in wrestling. Please check them out. Our writer team does such a good job with their consistency and all of the knowledge that they provide with their articles. Please check those out. Please read them whenever you can. And of course, they'll be there for you to read even after that month. And then next month, of course, is Pride Month. So we've got more history to share and more present love to share for all of us here, because the human race is a very colorful place and a very colorful part to be in. So there's just so much to be highlighted in all of this humanity. So please, show love with all of our posts and all the things that we highlight here at Women's Wrestling Talk. But that's it. That is all we've got going on. Watch all of our shows, watch all of our after shows, support all of our hosts, support everything that we've got going on. But mostly support women's wrestling, because we're awesome. We just are. We're amazing. So please do that. But until next time, this is Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and a great night. Please stay safe. Love each other. Love your friends and your family. And just continue to feel the joy in wrestling and feel the joy in everything that you do. Because you only have one life. Enjoy it and make the best out of it. Until next time, bye y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.